I think it is a first webinar that we are having from remote location, sitting in our home and not in office, and talking about how we can make more money from patents specifically. And I think this is I don't know, this is a good time or not to talk about it, because everyone is already trying to figure out how to extract the maximum out of their business. But since we already planned it, I think we should continue in the same manner. And I think what I thought that when we were planning for this topic, Gaurav, from our team, have worked a lot on this. He has also developed various applications and analyzed hundreds of different use case studies. So I thought that to also have him, I will have a quick chat with him, learn more from him, and see if we can come up with some examples for others, which they can use into their own business. So Gaurav, where are you right now? Are you in your hometown, or you are still in Chandigarh?
Deepak, I'm still in Chandigarh.
So you intentionally decided that you are not going to travel, or it was just a impulsive thing?
Actually, I intentionally decided because travel these days is very risky from both the perspective, like from my perspective also, and if I'm going at home, I'm putting my elders and parents also at risk. So better to stay here.
Yeah, I think that's a great decision. And Gaurav, I also thought to have Aniruch with me. Aniruch actually works a lot with various different clients and help them build solutions whenever they come up with problems. So I think if we come across a situation for which we both of us don't know the answer, I think we will ask him to come in, or he can directly jump into our conversation. Okay, so nobody knows anywhere we are office or not, so we can start. So Gaurav, why don't you start actually how you come across this problem and how you actually try to solve it, which I think I've seen a lot of, especially the small companies and individual inventors. I think large companies still figure out because they have a lot of resources, but the SMEs and individual inventors really struggle when they have a patent and they don't know what to do with it, how to make money. Brokers do not take any such case from anyone without they evaluate, or they are sure that the patent is very good. So it's really very difficult. And so I would love to hear what is your take on this.
Yeah, Deepak. So Deepak, we have seen a lot of cases like these days where in this industry, the analysts are doing analysis on the bibliographic data or assignment data. We have seen a lot of cases like this. And also talking about the making money out of the patents. People these days are looking for very aggressive strategies. We have seen a lot of litigations these days, big ones. Recently we got news of Apple, like Apple and Qualcomm are very big news. So these are like very aggressive strategies for patent monetization. So today we will look at how we can, apart from this bibliographic and assignment data, explore the data hidden in the image file wrapper and find out some way for monetizing the patents, or like finding some good patents out of your big portfolio, which IP councils these days struggle. So let me start by like directly sharing an image file wrapper with you guys.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think earlier your screen got blank. Now I can see a file wrapper. This is from US, I think.
Yeah, so this was an image file wrapper for this application which belonged to Intel.
Oh, okay. You're picking an Intel example.
Let me find rejection area where it is. Yeah, here it is. So this section is rejections. This is 35 USC 102, 103. So 102 is basically for lack of novelty, and 103 is for obviousness. So this section is combined, I think. Let's see what we can get from here. Yeah. So Deepak, as you can see here, claims 17 and 1319 are rejected under 35102 as being anticipated by this patent number. So eventually this patent becomes so, by the way, let me check whose patent is this.
So you're checking the patent that was cited by the examiner?
Yeah.
Okay, so the assignee, you mean? I thought these days all the file wrapper are OCR. We can't copy the number.
Yeah, actually, the what USPTO does is they scan the document and upload it. So it's very difficult. You can't like just copy the number from here. You have to OCR it, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a big problem I've seen with a lot of people. That's why they use maybe Adobe, the higher version of it, so that whenever you open any PDF, it automatically, OCR it. I don't know. I think USPTO should do this. So many people need this kind of thing in searching within this office action.
Yeah, actually,
But I think that's for another day.
yeah, the OCR is also a very processor consuming process, and also it takes time. So and image file wrappers are not in less number, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was searching for this patent. This is a systems and method for handling hibernation data, and it belongs to Apple.
Oh, okay.
So what we can conclude from here, this patent belongs to Apple. It was cited by examiner in the prosecution of this Intel's patent. And the Intel got a rejection under section 35(102) of US. So doesn't this make this patent an important one for Apple?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially at this time when Apple is thinking of getting rid of Intel and trying to shift to AMD or their own processor. Absolutely, there's a war coming in future, I'm sure.
Yeah, and also looking at this patent, this is for system and methods for handling hibernation data. So hibernation is very common in all the PCs these days. Personal computers we are having these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one more thing I would like to mention here is, so okay, so now Apple patent got cited here by the examiner, but many a times many a times there are cases where like companies like Intel, like where they are in prosecution state, they can overcome this rejection by just talking to the examiner or maybe with continued examination, and many of the times the rejection is overcome by these and like problem is solved. But in lot of cases they can't overcome the rejection, and they eventually have to amend their claim or abandon their application.
Yeah, nothing can be done for that.
Yeah, so this was just a one image file wrapper we looked for. Now Apple wants to know, so this is just my one patent. So where are my all patents? Where are my all patents which were cited by examiner? I want to know this. So what will you do? You will just so what can you do is like collect all the image file wrappers from this whole world and see where my patent is cited, OCR all the documents of image file wrapper and see where my patents are.
Isn't it? I was thinking that forward citation is more or less the same, or it is not. I mean, the forward citation that will be there for this patent will show where it was cited.
Yeah, Deepak. So forward citation can show, but there is a little difference between a forward citation and an examiner citation. Forward citation is like Intel can also cite Apple's patent. So suppose Intel cites some patents for Apple, so that these are backward citations for Intel, and this becomes a forward citation for Apple. But this particular case is actually cited by examiner. So this makes this important. And also it directly relates to the lack of novelty or obviousness.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was talking about the Apple here, like maybe Apple can wish to index all their data like this. So the good thing is we already got that covered. So let's see how Apple portfolio look like.
Oh, you have it for a lot of companies.
You notice that?
So while
Okay.
you're opening, Anirudh, have you faced this issue? I mean, while talking to the client, are they like so much into this thing that I need to know the citations or who is citing my patents, or they never talk about this?
Many a time we receive requests internally also. Like we receive a lot of frequent requests from our infringement team. So whenever they are doing some litigation study or they want to know the subject where the subject patents were cited. So the
Right.
first output they consume is from this data, and they do some further infringement analysis to find the potential.
Right.
So I can share one good example recently. So
Gaurav, before we do that, I think it is also important for us to understand. Uh,
Anirudh, I think you're too far from us. Your voice is not reaching us.
is it better now?
yeah,
Yeah, now I feel
Right.
that you are sitting with us.
So I was saying, I think it's also important for us to also understand why is it important all of a sudden. Why not uh, go by a regular approach of making EOUs, or why not go by a regular approach of, as we call it, aggressive patent monetization? Uh, and I think it's more psychological. It's more about the dynamics which will happen in a patent sales or a patent licensing negotiations. What I have observed after talking to a lot of people is the dynamics of your boardroom are going to be entirely different when you get a call from a, maybe in this case, from a legal department of Apple saying, hey, you are infringing on our patent, versus from a business unit of Apple saying, hey, we want to do some business with you, we want to talk with you. So I think that's where the key difference is. That's where we're trying to make a difference in the approach, where we are not accusing each other of stealing each other's technology, but it's rather in a collaborative way. We're saying, hey, I think you and I, we both share some common interest, and why don't we talk about it and make some money out of it? And I think it's very recent, or uh, when the president of Nokia, and the chief legal officer, Maria Barcelona, she also said the same or something on the similar lines, that a reason why Nokia was able to conclude SCP license in China was because they were able to get CEOs of Huawei and Xiaomi along with in a room with the CEO of Nokia, and that's why they were able to negotiate those licensing deals very easily. So I think the changing dynamics in the licensing and the monetization industry is also a reason why could be our operations team or our patent monetization team is reaching out to Gaurav whenever uh, they are about to look for monetization leads for a patent.
Hmm. I mean, the big companies keep doing so many things, and I think it's so difficult for somebody of a smaller size or medium size to think about all these strategies. They have no IP department or no IP council. I don't know. And there's nothing to read also. I mean, if you go online, you will not find any one place which will say these are the 5 things that you can do step by step, or at least, if someone is there, he's going to ask for a huge amount of money from you to do anything, and that too, no guarantee what is going to happen. So that is like bothers me a lot, that at least there should be a small step which do not take you directly to your goal, but at least you know that, oh, should I proceed more towards it or not, or should I completely scrap it? I think that is what I'm more interested in knowing, that
Right.
if there is one such way that people can actually follow and then Um,
Right.
feel
Right.
good
And
about that. Good or not.
right. And I think uh, there is one more reason why this is happening, because when I talk to people that is if there could be an automated way to perhaps generate some leads for monetization, uh, everybody was like, we're not going to trust some machines with patents. The language of patent is very different. Let's just say nobody has enough faith in the technology right now, and I think that's the point which Gaurav was trying to make. uh, One should not look at the forward citations, but rather examiner citations, because at least then you have have a satisfaction that somebody at the USPTO at least have eyeballed the technology, and that's why he's raising a 102 or a 103 type of rejection. So I
So
think
isn't
this.
I mean, why this is, I mean, I was seeing the Gaurav's
Mhm,
interface and,
mhm,
it looks very nice, but at the same time, it looks very complex also. Uh,
mhm.
Why can't somebody use just like Google Patterns and get an idea? I was thinking that, the whatever forward citation we are talking about includes both. I mean, both means the examiner cited or the other side, anyone else has cited it, it would be there. Uh, or I'm missing something in this game here.
Uh, I would I would say that I have also seen some cases, and I think this is more driven from uh, doing work with the patent validation and the litigation side of the things, where we actually see a lot of citations in the patent, but uh, they are more like state of the art references. We are not finding an exact overlap between the citations and between the patents. By exact overlap, I'm saying like more than 50% of the 60% of the overlap. Now the inventors, they do oblige to their duty of disclosure, and they do deliver all those references which they have read. But sometimes, we start with an invention. Over the time it has matured a lot, and by that time we have read through like 300 or 400 documents, or maybe even more. And when we give that list to USPTO, they all come into the forward citations of all those patents we have read. And I think uh, that's where the challenge builds up, because when you are doing this to scale, when you're doing this for at least 10 million patents, because every time a patent is filed, some of those 10 million patents, there will be an increment in the forward citation. And when this has been happening for like almost a century now, uh, the data is so huge, and this unreliability on not getting it vetted manually is now so huge that the IP monetization fraternity would say, it will be better if somebody has at least manually analyzed it. I don't want to go to somebody, and maybe if I am a CEO, I don't want to maybe sit in front of another CEO and say, I have something for you, but it's not manually analyzed. So I think that's why I said I think it's more psychological.
Hmm. Maybe I think we can see if somehow Gaurav, what is showing us can be used by SMEs or individuals, and if that makes them their job or their what they want to achieve a little bit easy, and then we can come back to the same topic of it, that
Sure.
how it can be approached, how this can be approached of if they want to sell or license their patents.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So as Anirudh said, like doing this task for a very big portfolio can be a troublesome task. So you won't go to Google Patents for each patent, find the forward citations, and like then find the assignees for this for patents. So this can be a troublesome task if you have a huge portfolio. So yeah. So here Apple's portfolio, which this can be a huge portfolio. So if we see here like overview, so uh, this is the broad level picture of this whole thing. These are around 16,000 publications what we have monitored here, and 7,000 were involved in the rejections. So let's see here like what can be the potential targets for the Apple.
So this is all US is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's all US. So I think uh, what we have this like the bifurcated this interface on the basis of 102 and 103 type rejections. So this come under US laws. So yeah, so if we look at the Apple's portfolio, let's see this first card. So Apple is blocking Samsung's around 1,000 applications and around 986 Apple publications were involved in the rejection. And so if we deep down into the Samsung, so we can see the trend here. So like if we talk about this publication, electronic device housing as acoustic input device. So this Apple's publication is blocking Samsung here. 16 rejections in 3 blocked applications. I think that's a pretty good number. And you can also see like, so now what question can come to my mind? So this is application of Samsung and it's already granted. So why go to the trouble of doing all this analysis? So what can happen here is this application of Samsung, although it is granted, but now you can see here that it faced 3 rejections, 21 March, 21 March, and 30 September. So after all the 3 rejections, Samsung has to amend their claim for overcoming the rejection. So eventually what happens is the technology that Samsung intended to get, it was not able to get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so such things are like, and one more thing is if you are
Gaurav, before you continue, I had a question here. I mean, so help me understand. So when we're saying Apple and Samsung and Apple patent is used to raise a 1 or 2 rejection, uh, how does it's important for a uh, how does it important in the patent monetization space? So are we saying it is a common invention area or a common place uh, where both Apple and Samsung are innovating, and this 1 or 2 rejection is uh, kind of a proof that they were inventing very close to each other?
yeah, I guess that's the reason. So if we talk about any like these 2 patents here, so maybe Samsung was innovating in this direction and got a 1 or 2 rejection. So Samsung was not able to get the hands on the technology. So this becomes important from maybe
So
Samsung can license this patent or
right. So I think what we are saying here is Apple already had what Samsung was trying to have,
yeah.
and maybe instead of going through all that trouble of getting a patent, Samsung should directly reach out to Apple and see if Apple is willing to share that technology. Is that what we are saying here?
Yes, absolutely. And also many a
Mhm.
times what happens is like the assignees try so hard to overcome the rejection, but eventually they have to abandon it. Let's see if we get any case like this here. Yeah, so we have a lot of this. So as we can see, this application, all these applications were abandoned because of, maybe we can say it was because of Apple's publications, because at some point of time, Apple's patent was cited in the prosecution of Samsung's application, and just after, and in the response of that rejection, Samsung has to abandon their application. So maybe this can be a potential reason for this abandonment.
So is 103 a strong rejection? I mean, which Apple should be taking into consideration, or you mean that first should be 102 those can give a very good idea about the companies, and then you can slowly proceed to the others.
Yeah, I think one or two directly relates to the lack of novelty. So it's obviously like someone has already claimed the invention, and you are like again trying to patent the same invention. So I think one or two is important here.
Hmm. Is there an easy way that, I can just get a list of all the companies? Because this may be very complex. I mean, going inside EAD, and it may work for maybe large companies who want to go portfolio by portfolio, technology by technology, or only want to do this for specific patents. They want to prune around, and rather than pruning, they can do, sell them to these companies. So it may make sense for them. But what about small players? Is there an easy way? They may have 5, 10, 15, 20 patents. Is there a way they can, just get a list of companies who are trying to do, the same thing that for which they already have a patent?
Yeah. So recently we did a study for Slack. So what Slack was trying to do is Slack recently acquired some patents which were related to chatting or messaging technology. So that were around 55 patents, and we just out of curiosity ran into this database. So these were the results that we found. So we got a whooping number of rejections that were 995, and that were just out of 55 patents.
Rejection means this 95 patents actually rejected all these 900 patents, right?
You can't say 900 patents. So this 995 is number of rejections. So number of
Oh,
patents
number of
will,
rejections. The
yeah,
unique
somewhat.
patents may be much less, you mean?
So there can be multiple rejections in some patent also.
Okay, okay, okay.
So let's means suppose can we see some multiple rejection here?
Yeah, let's pick anyone, I mean.
Meanwhile, if I do some rudimentary mathematics without taking any assumption, it's kind of like a single patent was used for somewhere like 18, maybe, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
A
18 or
single
20,
patent,
yeah. It's
18
almost
or 20
1,000 patents,
rejections
you're right.
time,
Yeah.
And
somewhere
that's
around
like
those.
pretty crazy, because that means one patent was cited so many times uh, in
Right.
one prosecution. Maybe I think the count is doubling up because of 102 and 103 both. I really don't know. Maybe Gaurav can tell us about that.
But what I'm thinking is, so many people were innovating so close to each other, and I mean USPTO is already troubled with an issue of latency and pendency at their desk. So why not just sit together and see who has what, rather than it's trying to reinvent the wheel? I mean, this also triggers this thought. But in any case, Gaurav, please continue.
Yeah. So we were talking about this, and as you can see, the assignees here. So these are not small companies. When you each name anyone means all of the people know what is eBay, Microsoft, Apple, Salesforce. So these are like big companies. So these particular applications of these are Slack's patent. So these are like 55 patents which were cherry picked by Slack from Yahoo's portfolio. And as we all know, Yahoo was once a pioneer in chatting and messaging technology. So coming to the Deepak's question, can we do it for the small portfolios and small companies? So yes, we can do it.
Hmm.
I hope Deepak this answers your question.
I mean, the Slack is I mean, it's a unicorn, and they have 55 patents which they were acquiring, right? You said?
Yeah.
So that means it can be a good idea that whenever a company is acquiring the patents, or I see a lot of patents available for sale, on various platforms, they should also provide this information by default to all the users. I mean, I understand you cannot show evidence of use charts, not a good thing to put in public domain, but this is already in public. I think this should be available. if people start showing it, it is a good idea. I mean, I guess.
So actually, Deepak, I have one more very pretty good example. As you said, like companies which are making the publicly available patents which are for sale. So Toyota. So Toyota recently listed the some of the portfolios which are available for licensing, and these are
Oh,
some.
you mean they openly do this? You mean to say?
Yeah, so they also so this is bioactive cleaning materials technology, and they also listed the patents which were available for licensing.
Okay.
So when we so let's look at this technology, omnidirectional structural color. So
So is this the same Toyota that manufactures automobiles, or this is some other
no,
Toyota?
no, that's the same Toyota, the multinational company we all know about.
Okay, so it might be one arm of their which works in this particular domain.
Yeah. So when we look at the omnidirectional color technology, so they actually designed this for the coloring in the automobiles. As you can see here, initially this technology was developed by Toyota for automotive paint, but its uses can be expanded so much further. So this technology particularly relates to the uh, when you see this technology, this can be used in many devices, and it produces a vibrant and a like very lustrous color across all viewing angles. So this can be used in fashion, consumer electronics, luggage, and these are the patents. So again, just out of curiosity, we ran these patents into our database and see what we have here. So I already got this here. So there are 30 patents which were listed, and out of those 30, 10 were involved in the rejections. And
Oh,
what were the assignees? Here it is. So Toyota was clearly looking here to identify some potential companies which can be a buyer for these patents, right?
hmm.
And maybe some other companies were also looking for some patents in this technology. Maybe they want to launch a product or anything. So here are some of these. So Canon, when we talk about, is masters in optical devices and camera. So clearly this technology is useful in displays of such devices, so that we can have good viewing angles from all the directions.
So it provides you a very good idea. That means if you have a small set of patents there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Deepak, you
So
were
is
saying?
there a way that if someone has, as I said, I'm more inclined towards like the small players or people which have less number of patents to easily use this tool, or this is something which is available to few people, because someone who has less number of patents, he don't need the access to this for a whole year, I guess. He can use it once and that is good enough for him.
So Deepak, maybe small companies are like, okay, so they have some patents, but maybe they are trying to innovate in some other direction, or they want to like, suppose they want to, in a particular technology, they want to innovate. So maybe they can use this data or interface to find out the patents which they should actually acquire. Like what we say the like we say standard essential patents.
Mhm.
So recently we wrote an article on our blog. Let me remember it. Yeah. Mm, yeah, here it is. So so what we did was like took all the patents of Microsoft in databases and file management, ran it in BOS, and here are the results. So these are the patents in databases and file management technology. When you see these patents, these were involved in like 40 rejections and 39 rejections. This particular patent blocking 17 applications which were of Facebook, Google, IBM, and so and so. And when you look at the title of these patents, like you can any software engineer like can tell like these are very common concepts in databases, and these are used in our day-to-day search results, searches and all.
So is there any open version available where people can go and access the tool, or right now it is not, it is only for specific things?
So recently we launched the open version, and we are still actually developing it. So just for people to explore the interface, we have listed down some of the portfolios here which they can explore, and if they wish to add their portfolio, means like they can directly contact us and we would be very happy to do that.
Okay.
But as I said, we are actually in process of developing this interface, so it is on the early stages.
Understood. Yeah, I think this would be very helpful if it can give you a very quick idea, maybe in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And sometimes maybe just in negotiation, if you are negotiating a vendor contract with any of these company, sometimes having such information can give a leverage also. So I think that's also a good idea. So Aniruch, what about you? Have you seen a lot of companies or clients asking about such a thing, or they directly go into using some analyst or a person looking at their patterns and telling them who is using that?
Deepak, I think mostly people are not aware of that the patent citation data can actually be used to make a repository of the leads where they can go and they can reach out to people. So far, what I have seen is people, they mostly indulge in like you said, the claim charts or the EOU activities. But what they will do is they'll get the EOU prepared, but they will never, out of goodwill, they will never make it public, or they would not say it to your face. They would say, I think you would be interested in this patent. And I think it's kind of unsaid that if somebody is reaching out to you, uh, it's kind of unsaid, but it's known to everybody that, okay, I think we have infringed on somebody and it's going to cost us some dollars now. Uh, this particular method, I think, is interesting because at least it gives me a kind of a soft narrative for a discussion, and it's also a bit logical to see. I mean, uh, because somewhere by the intersection of the patent citations, we are trying to gauge if two people are interested or investing in the same area. So, kind of a logical, non-aggressive narrative backed by the data I think, is a very good uh, first step to at least break the ice in the in such deals. I think I was also involved in some of these studies, and the beauty comes more when for example, if I'm not sure if Apple and Samsung are going to talk about if they're going to maybe license patents to each other. But if there is a common competitor of Samsung, he definitely might want to talk to Apple and see, okay, if Apple is still blockading Samsung from entering into a particular technology, he might be interested into that. And I think that's where the patent citation data can be leveraged to a great extent.
So then I think basically what we are saying is that just knowing this information, irrespective of if you want to make money or not make money, is actually useful because it's like an intelligence about your business.
Deepak, what you have said is right. but I think there has to be a very easy way to at least have access to this information. Otherwise, all these are all just names at the bottom of the patent document, or these, more importantly, these are just like numbers at the bottom of the patent document. So I know, uh, maybe when maybe through this database, I know uh, Apple is blocking Samsung. I know maybe Samsung is also blocking Apple. Uh, have you also come across some similar patterns which maybe which was blocking multiple assignees? I think I saw when you were showing some examples, somewhere it was written it is blocking 19 other assignees, but I'm not sure about it.
Uh, yeah, Anirudh, you are right. So let me show you again. So, so this is some smart portfolio. Still, we got a patent here, which is blocking multiple assignees, LG and Canon. So both are like big names. So Anirudh, I am not sure
Hmm.
how. So how is this like much useful to you? You asked like with a lot of curiosity.
I mean, maybe not for one assignee, but uh, I think when you have a portfolio of say 30,000 patents or even 10,000 patents, which a lot of big corporates in US have, uh, at least I might shortlist some patents uh, through these criterias, maybe. And I was just thinking that if I am sitting at a business negotiation and I'm going to pitch a patent maybe to somebody else, what else I can talk about? I mean, I can say, yeah, maybe we both share a common intersection, or we both share a common interest in the technology. What else? I thought I was thinking what I could say, because when we think in a direction of uh, having this so-called non-aggressive discussion, there should be a little bit more perks, because if you now chalk out that infringement part, uh, then you have to give other parties something to at least listen to you, or at least give this a thought. So that's where I was coming from. And I mean, this one is saying this blocks 20 other assignees.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will not go into the details of how and when and where, but at least I think it is good enough to raise my eyebrows and say, yeah, I think maybe I should take a look at it. Maybe whosoever this patent broker or this patent agent is, maybe he's saying something sensible. Let me talk to it. And I think that's that's what I try to do when I talk to many other patent brokers or many other patent monetization agents, to get the ball in motion, to make people talk. And when when at least the both parties are communicating properly, then you can look at their other patterns in the portfolio, you can handpick certain leads, and at least get things in motion properly. So that's what I was looking for, some fireworks which could help me to break the initial inertia.
And I would like to add here. So as this patent belong to BlackBerry, and we are looking the where so BlackBerry is blocking Qualcomm. So when we look at this also blocking 20 other assignees. So suppose if Qualcomm purchases this patent or license this patent, so is it like Qualcomm will automatically block these 20 other assignees?
Well, I think the blocking has already been done. If we look at it this way, that Qualcomm was blocking, say, uh, some 20 people. Okay, they got a 102 or a 103 rejection. Okay, they amended their claims. That's also fine. Right now, I think if they amended their claims to overcome the rejection, they still got some IP. It might be narrower than what they wanted to have, but at least they have some IP to protect their products now. So that's there. Uh, it's not like I mean, we all know there are workarounds. We all know you can make the scope more narrower. So I think it's not more about blocking anymore. It's more about looking for common interests right now, uh, and see if the data which you already have, but it was not directly visible to you because it was just in the form of numbers, can now help you to give you some leads, to give you some people, or help you shortlist some people to talk to in case you want to monetize your patents. So I think that's where my head is. I will not look at from a blocking or a stopping angle, but yeah, you blocked us at that time. We didn't get the IP we wanted at that time. We have some IP now, but it's still good to maybe have a talk to see if there is some other areas where we can collaborate.
I think maybe we can have another session on talking about more details, not details, more advanced discussion on this particular thing. I think for first session, I think this would be too much of the information that I would not say too much, at least a good information for people to know that what first step they can take rather than directly going into a detailed study or exhaustive study by engaging someone. So let's go with that. And I got disconnected in between, and I just joined. I'm assuming that I've not missed much, but I will catch up with you on the things if I've missed anything. And all the people who are listening, if you have any question, you can directly email us, because the email you can reply to that what we have been interacting with you till now. And if you want special access, I think we can also give you of the interface, and you can evaluate your own patents on something like this. So Gaurav, I think it is good chatting with you on this. I'm assuming that during our discussion itself, there were so many ideas that came up. At least if you can parse just the office action for me, that itself is going to be a good stuff. Even though there are a lot of things that are available, but I really hate if USPTO doesn't provide an OCR office action. And if you have any statistic from this analysis that, what kind of patents or what kind of companies have, patents in a specific way, which actually block a lot of other companies' patents, I think that would be very interesting, because that somehow reveals how people are thinking internally when they are building a strategy for their portfolio. But I think that's for another day, because when there is a data, it comes along with such a lot of hidden information. But we can work on it and come up with another session on it. Till then, I think it was good. Aniruch, anything that you have which you would like to share in the end? But otherwise, I think we can close this one.
Nothing more from my side, Deepak. I think this is good. My only challenge is usually, or that's what we say here internally, people won't use any sort of data until and unless they are able to process it in their minds very easily. And I think that's why nobody is using or nobody is leveraging the power of patent citations. Because like I've been saying, these are just these are just numbers at the bottom of the patent document if you look at the Google patents. So I think this is a nice approach, taking it a step further, starting from the OCR, look where we are right now. So nothing more from my side. I think it's good.
Okay, that's good. Gaurav, anything that you would like to say, or you have anything apart from what you have already discussed?
I think that's pretty much from my side too. It's already 11 a.m. in India, so I think I must hit the kitchen now.
So looks like you might be cooking yourself.
Yeah.
So good. I think learning new things this period of time. So take care. I think let's plan another wide session on this. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.